Three figures emerged from the seawater, glowing with powerful spiritual light. As they appeared, three waves of immense spiritual pressure also swept out. Upon seeing these figures, the delicate face of Jiu changed slightly, for the three individuals before them were quite famous. Among the current divine beast races, their renown was second only to Huang Xuanzhi. Now that these three had suddenly appeared, it was hard to tell what they truly wanted. In contrast to Jiu's tense vigilance, Chen remained relatively calm, although his eyes betrayed a hint of surprise. Clearly, he had not expected this turn of events. "It seems you hold me in high regard, coming here together like this," Chen said with a faint smile, his spiritual energy gradually beginning to flow, his body showing signs of transforming into a brilliant spiritual form. He was not acquainted with the three, and now they had come to him. This could not be a good thing. However, Chen was not afraid. Although the three before him were strong, each having reached the quasi-immortal grade, if they thought they could subdue him just because there were more of them, they were gravely mistaken. "Hiki, Brother Mu, please don't harbor such hostility. We're not here to deal with you because of Huang Xuanzhi." Unexpectedly, Xun'er, one of the three, laughed lightly and said in a gentle voice. Chen raised an eyebrow and turned his gaze toward the woman who had spoken. She was exceptionally beautiful, and beneath her beauty, there was an air of nobility, like a phoenix. She wore a colorful dress, her slender body and tiny waist were enchanting, and her fair neck and collarbones revealed an indescribable allure. "What do you mean?" Chen asked, slightly puzzled. He could not imagine why these three would not be here to cause trouble. What else could they want from him? Jiu, standing to the side, was also somewhat confused. Xun'er smiled softly and said, "We came here because we want to cooperate with you, Brother Mu." "Cooperate?" Chen was taken aback, growing even more perplexed. What kind of cooperation could they have in this divine transformation pool? Xun'er flashed a charming smile and pointed to the other two. "Brother Mu, these two are Lin Song from the Nine-Headed Golden Eagle clan and Xiao Tian from the Heavenly Dragon Crane clan. They are both elites from the current avian super divine beast races." Lin Song and Xiao Tian both nodded at Chen, their expressions slightly proud. Such behavior was understandable, given their fame, which was enough to make them look down on others. Chen responded with a faint smile and then directly asked, "What is it that you want to cooperate with us on?" He wasn't particularly interested in this so-called cooperation, as he didn't have a high level of trust in these three. Cooperating with such individuals would undoubtedly lead to many concerns. Seemingly noticing Chen's indifference, Xun'er smiled slightly and said, "I wonder, Brother Mu, are you interested in the blood spirit beast of the Saint Grade?" At these words, both Jiu and Chen were taken aback, their pupils shrinking in shock. A Saint Grade blood spirit beast? A blood spirit beast of that level could actually be nurtured in the divine transformation pool? Earlier, the highest level blood spirit beast they had found was only at the early spirit grade, and that had already greatly benefited Jiu. As for the Saint Grade, it had never even crossed their minds. But if they could really obtain a Saint Grade blood spirit beast, it might be enough to help Jiu evolve, and even the remaining part could allow Chen to try transforming the true dragon and true phoenix spirits within his body into a tangible form. The shock in his eyes lasted for a while, but Chen gradually calmed down. He looked at Xun'er and slowly said, "If it really is a Saint Grade blood spirit beast, I advise you to give up. It's not something we can handle." Although the blood spirit beast only possessed vast blood energy and no real abilities, in this great thousand world, anything related to the Saint Grade was not a trivial matter. With their current strength, if they truly encountered a Saint Grade blood spirit beast, running away might be the more realistic option. As for capturing it, even if they worked together, it would be impossible. Xun'er did not rebut Chen's words. Instead, she nodded in agreement and then asked, "If it is truly a Saint Grade blood spirit beast, we would naturally run far away. But what if it's just a blood spirit beast on the verge of breaking through to the quasi-Saint Grade?" Chen's eyes flashed with a sharp light. He stared at Xun'er, his brows furrowing slightly, and said, "If such a great opportunity really exists, why would you come to me?" If Xun'er and the others truly knew that there was a blood spirit beast on the verge of breaking through to the quasi-saint level, it would undoubtedly be a tremendous opportunity. If they could devour and refine it, it would pave a smooth path for their future ascension to the Saint Grade. They had no previous relationship with him, so why would they allow him to share in such a bounty? Xun'er, Lin Song, and Xiao Tian exchanged glances before finally smiling bitterly and saying, "Because that blood spirit beast, which is about to break through to the quasi-saint level, is also known to Huang Xuanzhi. Chen froze for a moment, then asked in confusion, if that's the case, why don't you go to Huang Xuanzhi? Why come to me? Clearly, from a normal perspective, seeking Huang Xuanzhi's help would be much more reliable than coming to him for cooperation. Upon hearing Chen's question, the three of them awkwardly shifted their gazes. After a pause, they finally spoke, because Huang Xuanzhi is too domineering. He insists on taking 70% of the blood spirit essence for himself, leaving only 30% for the three of us. Chen understood immediately. It seemed these individuals had fallen into infighting over the division of the spoils, which led Xun'er and her companions to seek other help. Are you three really unable to beat Huang Xuanzhi? Chen glanced at them. Xun'er, Lin Song, and Xiao Tian were all at the quasi-immortal grade, and if they truly fought, they should have been able to hold their ground even against an early-stage immortal. You don't understand how powerful Huang Xuanzhi is. He is the true phoenix, sovereign of all birds, and has cultivated the 9 revolutions ascension art, one of the 36 peerless divine abilities. Though he is currently at the early immortal grade, in battle, even those at the mid-immortal grade wouldn't stand a chance against him. Lin Song, from the 9-headed Golden Eagle clan, snorted coldly. Although the three of them were prodigies cultivated with enormous resources, they had to admit that they were still one step behind Huang Xuanzhi. Xun'er nodded slightly and smiled. We three don't have the confidence to contend with Huang Xuanzhi, so we need a powerful ally. When we heard about Fang Jing's situation, we realized that Brother Mu has hidden depths, so we decided to approach you. Chen smiled. Though Xun'er spoke indirectly, he could tell they hadn't originally intended to seek his help, perhaps thinking he wasn't qualified. But after hearing how easily he had dealt with Fang Jing, they had finally taken him seriously and came to find him. You have a grievance with Huang Xuanzhi. There will inevitably be a showdown between you two. If you cooperate with us, we might weaken him a little, and you'll have more opportunities, said Xiao Tian of the Dragon Crane clan. However, from his tone, it was clear he didn't believe Chen was truly qualified to face Huang Xuanzhi. Chen chuckled faintly and didn't argue further. His expression turned contemplative, as he was indeed very interested in that quasi-saint blood spirit beast. If he could obtain it, not only would his 9 nether evolution be completely solved, but he himself would also gain a tremendous opportunity. Xun'er and the others fell silent, watching Chen with a hint of nervousness. According to their assessment, without Chen's help, they likely wouldn't be able to capture the quasi-saint blood spirit beast before Huang Xuanzhi. After a long pause, Chen finally lifted his head, staring at them before slowly saying, I can cooperate with you. A look of joy appeared on Xun'er's beautiful face. But we need to agree on the distribution after we succeed, Chen added. Naturally, Xun'er smiled, but I believe Brother Mu isn't as domineering as Huang Xuanzhi, right? Chen smiled and raised 4 fingers. I'm not unreasonable. There are 2 of us, so we'll take 40% of the Saint-grade blood essence. Lin Song and Xiao Tian frowned when they heard this. They exchanged a glance with 9 Nether and said gloomily, We're looking for your cooperation, not hers. Given 9 Nether's current strength, it was clear they didn't view her as a threat, so they were extremely reluctant to allocate 2 portions to her. Chen smiled faintly, offering no rebuttal, but his stance was firm. According to his calculations, 40% of the quasi-saint blood essence would be the safest and would ensure 9 Nether could complete her evolution without any issues. Seeing Chen's resolute attitude, Xun'er hesitated for a moment, before finally clenching her teeth and saying, Fine, 40% it is. Lin Song shot an annoyed glance at Xiao Tian, but upon seeing the flicker in Xun'er's eyes, he swallowed the words of protest that were about to leave his mouth. Chen seemed to ignore all of this, flashing Xun'er a smile and saying, Since that's the case, I'll take up this collaboration. There's no time to waste. We should depart immediately. We must reach our destination first and set things up to hinder Huang Xuanzhi, Xun'er said decisively. Please, lead the way, Chen nodded, agreeing without objection. Xun'er gave a slight nod, and the 3 of them transformed into streams of light, tearing through the sea as they shot towards the depths of the boundless emerald ocean. Chen watched their light trails, his gaze flashing slightly. With a flick of his sleeve, his spiritual energy stirred, summoning the 9 Nether, and the 2 of them became streaks of light, quickly chasing after them. In the depths of the emerald waters, 5 beams of light rushed through at high speed, tearing apart the sea. After they had traveled for a while, the sea slowly calmed down. These 5 streaks of light were, of course, Chen, Xun'er, and the others. At our current speed, We should reach our destination in about half an incense stick's time. Kong Linger's voice came. Mu Chen nodded slightly and then asked, once we reach the destination, what's your plan? Are you going to capture that blood spirit beast directly? Kong Linger shook her head, her delicate face showing a hint of caution. Though we've used some methods to hinder Huang Xuanzhi, with his abilities, he will likely catch up soon. If we don't deal with this major problem first, we won't be able to capture the beast in peace. So you plan to deal with Huang Xuanzhi first? Mu Chen smiled lightly. Deal with him. Lin Song, from the Golden Eagle clan, scoffed. Don't be fooled by our numbers. It would be difficult for us to deal with Huang Xuanzhi. Seems like he left quite an impression on you all, Mu Chen chuckled. Humph. Do you really think his reputation as the #1 genius of the avian race is unearned? Xiao Tian, from the Dragon Crane clan, also sneered, defending him. All right. No need to argue, Kong Linger intervened, smoothing things over. She then turned to Mu Chen and said, we have no intention of dealing with Huang Xuanzhi. What we plan to do is trap him, giving us enough time to capture the blood spirit beast. Once we split things up, we'll quickly leave the divine transformation pool. Once we're outside, Huang Xuanzhi won't be able to do anything, no matter how unwilling he is. Mu Chen nodded non-committally. So how do you plan to trap him? And what do you need me to do? Kong Linger smiled charmingly, then gently raised her hand. A golden disc appeared in her palm, engraved with intricate runes. It emitted faint but powerful spiritual energy fluctuations. An array disc? Mu Chen squinted his eyes, immediately recognizing it. The golden disc in Kong Linger's hand was an array disc, likely inscribed with a powerful spirit array. This array disc is inscribed with a void spirit array. It's a spirit array at the level of an immortal grade grandmaster. Although it's not very offensive, it's perfect for trapping someone. If someone like an immortal grade heavenly supreme were to fall into it, they would be trapped for at least a few days, Kong Linger explained with a smile. Clearly, they had come prepared. Mu Chen nodded slightly, then calmly responded, but while these array discs are convenient, they have many limitations. They can only be set at one fixed point, and once the array is activated, it will emit a wave of energy. Huang Xuanzhi isn't a fool. He won't just walk right into it. As a master of spirit arrays, Mu Chen was very familiar with these discs and knew their drawbacks well. You're absolutely right, Mu Chen, Kong Linger nodded, agreeing. That's why we asked for your help. We'll lie in wait, and when the time comes, we'll hope you can force Huang Xuanzhi into the trap. Mu Chen thought for a moment, then nodded. Although he wasn't afraid of Huang Xuanzhi, there was no need to engage in a direct confrontation here. After all, he didn't fully trust Kong Linger and the others, so he wasn't about to risk a clash where both sides could lose. Seeing Mu Chen agree, Kong Linger smiled slightly, and the five of them increased their speed, gliding through the sea. Half an incense stick later, their speed began to slow, and Mu Chen's expression gradually grew serious. He could sense a terrifying wave of blood energy coming from somewhere ahead. The wave of blood chi emanating from the creature was so intense that it surpassed anything he had encountered from any blood spirit beast before. Even at this great distance, the pressure it exerted was enough to send chills down one's spine. The five of them gradually drew closer, and at a certain moment, they finally stopped. At that point, they were close enough to see a massive creature lying on the seabed in the distance. Its body was completely blood red, resembling a phoenix or a sparrow. Its enormous wings, though folded, spanned several thousand miles. Waves of tangible blood chi surged outward, stirring up continuous tsunamis. It's gathering blood chi, trying to break through to the quasi-saint grade. Mu Chen stared at the giant beast with a grave expression. The beast appeared to be at the late immortal grade, but it had found an opportunity to break through. Mu Chen couldn't help but feel some relief. Fortunately, this blood spirit beast lacked intelligence. Though it possessed vast blood chi, it couldn't fully unleash its power. Otherwise, even a true late immortal grade heavenly supreme would have been helpless against it. We should act quickly, Kong Linger reminded, and she threw a golden disc from her hand. A beam of golden light streaked across, and the disc floated in the water, with the golden light spreading outward. Countless spiritual lights intertwined, and after several breaths, a massive spirit array slowly took shape. As the spirit array formed, a powerful wave of spiritual energy radiated from it, causing the surrounding waters to churn. You're making too much noise. Seeing this, Lin Song and Xiao Tian furrowed their brows and couldn't help but speak up. Clearly, the commotion caused by the array was more than they had expected. Kong Linger also frowned slightly. She was not a spirit array master, so she hadn't anticipated such a strong disturbance. This meant that Huang Xuanzhi would likely sense it and take precautions in advance. It's fine. We'll just set up a spirit concealment array around it. Chen smiled faintly, and with a flick of his sleeve, countless spiritual seals shot out, quickly forming another array outside the void spirit array. With the appearance of this new array, the commotion caused by the void spirit array quickly subsided. The two arrays gradually merged into the water, becoming nearly impossible to detect. I didn't know Brother Mu had such profound knowledge of spirit arrays, Konglinger said in surprise. Lin Song and Xiao Tian exchanged a look of amazement. This guy certainly had some impressive abilities if he could make a name for himself in the Great Thousand Worlds. It's just a small spirit array, Chen casually waved his hand. Let's get ready. Konglinger and the others nodded, and their figures slowly turned into nothingness, blending into the water. All spiritual energy fluctuations vanished. Joyo, you should leave here for now. As they concealed their spiritual energy and merged with the sea, Chen turned to Joyo and spoke softly. Joyo's strength wasn't enough to completely conceal her spiritual energy, so she needed to distance herself. Otherwise, Huang Xuanzhi might detect her presence in advance. Joyo nodded slightly and whispered, "Be careful." Her words were laden with deeper meaning, warning Chen not only to be cautious of Huang Xuanzhi but also to keep an eye on Konglinger and the others. Chen smiled and nodded. He was always cautious and certainly wouldn't place absolute trust in Konglinger and the others. Take this jade talisman. If something goes wrong on your end, I'll sense it immediately. Chen quietly handed Joyo a jade talisman. While the possibility that Konglinger and the others were colluding with Huang Xuanzhi was small, given his arrogance, he would never do such a thing, pretending to be someone else's ally. However, Chen needed to be prepared for the worst. If that happened, he would strike first. Joyo took the talisman without saying much and turned, disappearing into a streak of light. Chen watched her vanishing figure before slightly shifting his own body. He quickly merged with the sea, and soon, the waters were calm again, with only the massive creature in the distance, still gathering its terrifying blood chi. However, this tranquility didn't last long. About half an hour later, movement stirred in the depths of the Emerald Sea. A golden light cut through the water, rushing with earth-shattering force. The golden light moved at incredible speed, crossing tens of thousands of miles in mere moments, and then it appeared in the sea area. Within the golden light, a tall figure stood with his hands behind his back. Two phoenix wings spread out from his back, gleaming with dazzling golden light, exuding an aura of nobility. The figure before them was none other than Huang Xuanzhi. Upon arriving, his gaze immediately locked onto the massive creature in the distance. His eyes flashed with divine light, which then shot out, ready to strike. Boom. However, just as he was about to attack the gigantic blood spirit beast, the surrounding sea suddenly erupted, as if sharp eagle cries, peacock songs, and crane calls reverberated through the air. Vast spiritual light raged, and three beams of spiritual light, each filled with overwhelming power, surged through the heavens and the earth, directly shattering the seawater within tens of thousands of meters into nothingness. The beams formed a triangular formation, fiercely spiraling towards Huang Xuanzhi, aiming to strangle him. Such an assault was incredibly sharp. Even a true immortal grade Heavenly Supreme would be severely wounded by it. The sudden onslaught howled towards him, yet to everyone's surprise, there was no sign of panic on Huang Xuanzhi's face. Instead, he laughed aloud. With a flick of his sleeve, his long fingers extended, and he gently slapped the void. Boom. Space shattered beneath his hand, and cracks spread out, carrying destructive power. The three earth-shattering attacks were torn apart in the wake of the spreading spatial fractures, breaking into segments. The seawater surged, and three figures emerged from within it. It was Konglinger, Lin Song, and Xiao Tian, their faces slightly pale. Shock was evident in their eyes, clearly not expecting that even their combined efforts were easily neutralized by Huang Xuanzhi's response. Huang Xuanzhi smiled as he looked at the three of them, exuding an imperial aura. His voice, like a soft laughter, rang out beneath the sea. Konglinger, Lin Song, Xiao Tian, you three really are relentless, aren't you? The waves surged beneath the emerald depths. Huang Xuanzhi stood with his hands clasped behind his back, golden phoenix wings slowly fluttering, stirring the sea, and a powerful, overwhelming sense of oppression spread in all directions. Around him, the sea rippled, and the figures of Konglinger, Lin Song, and Xiao Tian emerged. They looked at Huang Xuanzhi, whose imposing presence was as overwhelming as a storm. Their expressions were far from pleasant. They had originally thought that this sudden attack would at least catch Huang Xuanzhi off guard. But to their surprise, even with the combined strength of the three of them, they failed to inflict a single wound on him. Originally, I had intended to let you share 30% of the profits, seeing as you are also from the avian race. But now, it seems that the 30% can be saved. Huang Xuanzhi looked at the three, smiling indifferently. You're too greedy. Aren't you afraid you'll choke on it? Lin Song said coldly. Didn't you greatly underestimate my capacity, Huang Xuanzhi? Huang Xuanzhi replied with a carefree laugh. Stop talking nonsense with him. Attack? Kong Linger said decisively, as she was worried that Huang Xuanzhi might sense the surrounding spiritual arrays, which would expose their intentions. Boom. As Kong Linger's words fell, endless colorful light surged from her body. A clear peacock call rang out, and a beautiful peacock with 9 colored feathers materialized. As its splendid feathers fluttered, a terrifying spiritual energy radiated from it. Upon seeing Kong Linger manifest her true form, Lin Song also transformed, revealing a giant golden rock, but with 9 heads, each with sharp eagle eyes flashing gold, capable of tearing the sky apart. Xiao Tian's true form manifested as a colossal crane, its body covered in dragon scales, its claws also dragon claws, radiating endless cold gleams. With one swipe, the void cracked. The three of them knew Huang Xuanzhi's terrifying power, so they didn't hold back and immediately revealed their true forms, planning to launch their strongest attacks and give him no chance to breathe. Chi. Under the sea, the peacock call and crane cry echoed as the three massive creatures launched their attacks. From the 9-colored peacock, millions of colorful rays flickered and fell from the sky. Although they appeared dazzling, once entangled, even an immortal-grade heavenly supreme would be bound, with spiritual energy completely sealed, rendering them powerless. The 9-headed golden rock showed its most brutal side, its golden claws shattering the void, forming small black holes from the space fragments it created. Each strike carried terrifying power. The dragon crane let out a roar, and from its beak erupted a flood of water, as if dragon breath, radiating a destructive wave. Everything in its path was obliterated. TSK, Kong Linger, Lin Song, and Xiao Tian really are giving their all. With such an attack, even a true immortal-grade heavenly supreme would be forced to change expression. As a fierce battle erupted in the depths of the divine transformation pool, outside the pool, numerous powerhouses from various divine beast races stared intently at the water mirrors. Every detail of the underwater clash was clearly reflected on their shimmering surfaces. Though many were surprised that Kong Linger and her companions would choose to ally with Mu Chen against Huang Xuanzhi, everything made sense the moment they saw the blood spirit beast that was on the verge of breaking through to the quasi-saint grade. Faced with such a temptation, what did it matter if they joined forces with an outsider? Still, none could be certain whether this alliance would truly be enough to deal with Huang Xuanzhi. Under the tense gazes of the spectators, Huang Xuanzhi finally made his move against the fierce assault launched by Kong Linger and the others. His expression was calm, almost indifferent. As the multicolored radiance swept toward him like a tidal wave, he simply opened his mouth, and golden flames erupted. Wherever the golden flame passed, the vibrant light was reduced to nothingness in an instant. At the same time, Huang Xuanzhi extended his slender hand, casually swatting upward. His palm met the descending golden giant claw head-on. Clang! The moment they collided, it sounded like metal striking metal. A terrifying shockwave exploded outward, dispersing the seawater in a radius of tens of thousands of feet, forming what seemed like a vacuum. In the direct clash between claw and palm, Huang Xuanzhi's body only trembled slightly. In contrast, the massive 9-headed golden eagle let out a shrill cry as its colossal body was sent hurtling backward as though struck by a mighty blow. Its scales cracked, and blood spilled from the wounds on its talons. With a single palm, he forced back the 9-headed golden eagle. Huang Xuanzhi then stepped forward, letting out a hearty laugh. Lifting his eyes, he gazed at the oncoming torrent of destructive dragon breath. Golden light surged within his eyes, and suddenly, 2 blinding beams shot out, like twin golden pillars tearing through the sky. Sizzle! The moment the golden beams met the dragon breath, a sharp sizzling sound rang out. In the blink of an eye, the breath attack crumbled and dissipated, while the remaining golden beams pierced through the void and directly punched holes through the wings of the heavenly dragon crane. In the span of just a few breaths, 3 powerful heavenly pride contenders were all defeated. Huang Xuanzhi stood unshaken, golden light swirling around him, exuding an aura of invincibility that left all who witnessed it stunned. No wonder he's called Huang Xuanzhi, the undisputed #1 genius of the avian race. Outside the divine transformation pool, the watching powerhouses of the divine beast race were visibly shaken. Konglinger and her companions were well renowned, yet the gap between them and Huang Xuanzhi was undeniable the moment they clashed. Even with their combined strength, the trio's attacks were easily neutralized. The difference in power was as clear as day. Did you really think teaming up would allow you to challenge me? In the Emerald Sea depths, Huang Xuanzhi looked calmly at the stunned trio and said with a faint smile, "Since you're part of the avian race, I'll let it slide this time. Now get lost. This quasi-saint artifact is not something you're qualified to possess." Konglinger and the others were infuriated by his words, but the sheer dominance Huang Xuanzhi displayed left them speechless. "Oh, but I beg to differ." Just then, a sudden laugh echoed through the sea. Spatial ripples surged behind Huang Xuanzhi, and a tall figure slowly emerged. "Idiot!" Konglinger cursed in her heart as she saw Mu Chen appear but hesitate to strike. Someone like Huang Xuanzhi would instantly seize any opportunity if given the chance to react. Just as expected, the moment Mu Chen's voice rang out, Huang Xuanzhi's expression turned cold. He spun and struck without hesitation. Terrifying golden light surged as his palm, covered in a hardened golden sheen, shattered the void with a single blow. As the fearsome attack roared toward him, Mu Chen merely smiled. In the next moment, a surge of primordial chaos light rose from behind his head. The brilliant light swept forward, targeting Huang Xuanzhi. Whoosh! As the chaos light passed, Konglinger and the others gasped. To their shock, Huang Xuanzhi's figure vanished as if it had been swallowed by the light, clearly drawn into it. With Huang Xuanzhi caught in the primordial chaos light, Mu Chen stepped forward, instantly appearing within the void spirit array. Then, with a flicker of chaos light, a figure was forcibly ejected from it. "Activate the array," Mu Chen's voice echoed in Konglinger's ears at that very moment. Before anyone could even react, Mu Chen had already seized Huang Xuanzhi in the blink of an eye. At the same moment, Konglinger's hand seal shifted, and the void spirit array erupted with a vast surge of energy. The array activated instantly. As she glanced at Mu Chen, who was swiftly retreating beyond the array's boundary, a glint flashed in her eyes. Her seals subtly changed once again, and the array suddenly expanded at an astonishing speed, rapidly surging forward, about to engulf Mu Chen as well. Just as the array was on the verge of enveloping him, the spirit concealment array that Mu Chen had set outside the void spirit array flared to life. A burst of light erupted, blocking the void spirit array for a brief instant. That single moment was all Mu Chen needed. He vanished and reappeared thousands of feet away, completely escaping the void spirit array's range. With a hum, the void spirit array fully activated. Inside, it tore open a raging spatial passage. Huang Xuanzhi's figure was drawn into it, and just before he vanished, everyone could feel his icy gaze sweep across the field. That chilling stare sent a shiver through Konglinger and her two companions, but Mu Chen remained calm, his expression untouched. "Brother Mu, are you all right?" Now that Huang Xuanzhi had disappeared, Konglinger reverted to her graceful human form and rushed to Mu Chen's side, asking with clear concern. Mu Chen glanced at her with a faint, unreadable smile and shook his head. Lin Song and Xiao Tian also flew over. Their faces were a bit pale, but when they looked at Mu Chen now, the previous doubt in their eyes was gone, replaced by wariness, even a trace of fear. The three of them working together hadn't been able to do anything to Huang Xuanzhi. But Mu Chen? With one move, an eerie, almost incomprehensible method, he had captured him and thrown him straight into the array. That kind of power was unsettling. Only now did they begin to understand why Mu Chen had shown no fear toward Huang Xuanzhi. He had his own formidable means. "Brother Mu, you really are impressive." "Looks like we underestimated you," Lin Song said. "I just happened to seize an opening, nothing more." Mu Chen shook his head calmly and added, "Let's not waste time, go catch the target. Huang Xuanzhi isn't someone so easily dealt with." Hearing this, Konglinger and the others nodded right away, their eyes turning toward the distant seafloor, where a colossal creature lay in wait. Meanwhile, outside the divine transformation pool, countless powerful figures stared wide-eyed at the scene playing out within the water mirror. For a moment, everything was silent. No one had expected that the unstoppable Huang Xuanzhi, who had been dominating mere moments ago, would be thrown into the array by Mu Chen in a single encounter. "This guy is terrifying." Outside the divine transformation pool, silence reigned. The many experts of the divine beast race stood frozen, their gazes fixed on the water mirror. Clearly, they hadn't fully processed what had just happened. The invincible presence Huang Xuanzhi had just exuded had left too deep a shock. "Mu Chen, that was terrifying, someone finally muttered, snapping out of their daze. In just one exchange, Huang Xuanzhi had been taken down by a strange and elusive technique. It might have been unexpected, but it still proved Mu Chen's terrifying capabilities. No wonder he was able to throw the entire Futu ancient clan into chaos. He's got real skill. Now that they had seen Mu Chen's true methods for themselves, even those who had only heard rumors of his past feats couldn't help but acknowledge his brilliance. On a distant mountaintop, Patriarch Tian Huang watched the scene unfold, his face filled with astonishment. The last time he had seen Mu Chen, the boy's strength hadn't even registered in his eyes. And yet, just a few years later, he now had to look up to the very same young man. Such cultivation speed, it was simply monstrous. Nine Nether meeting him, that's truly the greatest stroke of fortune in her life. We tried to stop it back then. Looking back now, we were short-sighted. Patriarch Tian Huang let out a bitter chuckle, murmuring to himself. As hushed whispers echoed around the divine transformation pool, the Phoenix Queen, Huang Jin, also stared into the water mirror. His expression remained unreadable, making it impossible to tell what he was thinking. This Mu Chen, he's got some real tricks up his sleeve, said a Phoenix clan elder behind him, a trace of heaviness in his voice. Huang Jin nodded slightly, his gaze still locked onto Mu Chen's figure in the mirror. But if they think this is enough to finish off Xuanzhi, they're severely underestimating the Phoenix clan's peerless genius. At the bottom of the Emerald Sea, Mu Chen, Nine Nether, Konglinger, and the others all focused their gaze on the massive creature lying on the seabed. Waves of blood chi surged through the water like a tsunami, causing their breathing to halt momentarily. Mu Chen stared at the creature for a while, his brow slightly furrowed. Although this blood spirit beast shows signs of breakthrough, the process is too slow. If we wait for it to accumulate enough, it could take years. We don't have that much time to wait. Konglinger smiled charmingly at his words. What you say is true, Brother Mu. Since letting nature take its course won't work, we'll have to push things along. Mu Chen's eyes flashed, and he nodded slightly. Looks like you've been preparing for this. Konglinger, along with Lin Song and Xiao Tian, nodded in agreement. With a flick of their sleeves, nearly 100 blood essence stones, each the size of a human head, appeared, floating around them. These blood essences were clearly captured by them beforehand, and their quality was no small matter. As they gathered together, the overwhelming blood chi they emitted became incredibly dense. If we let the blood spirit beast consume all these blood essences, it should lead to an improvement, Konglinger said with a smile. Mu Chen, observing the blood essences radiating immense blood chi, was surprised. Did you tamper with these? He vaguely sensed that within these blood essences, there seemed to be some hidden and obscure spiritual energy fluctuations. Upon hearing Mu Chen's remark, Konglinger's eyes widened slightly in surprise, clearly not expecting his sharp perception. She nodded slightly and said, Indeed, we made some modifications. Once the blood spirit beast completes its ascension, we'll be able to easily strike it down and capture it. Impressive, Mu Chen praised. Konglinger was quite clever, and such ruthless methods left the blood spirit beast with little chance of survival. Of course, this also meant the blood spirit beast had no intelligence. Otherwise, it would have sensed something was wrong and would never have swallowed the altered blood essences. Konglinger smiled and shook her head, then, without further hesitation, waved her hand. The 100 blood essences whistled through the air and fell toward the massive creature lying in the distance at the bottom of the sea. With so many blood essences converging, the blood chi surged wildly, immediately catching the creature's attention. A sharp screech echoed, and its enormous mouth opened wide, greedily inhaling all the blood essences in one gulp. Boom! Boom! As the blood chi poured into it, the creature's surrounding blood chi surged explosively, shaking the entire sea as waves of blood chi swept through, distorting space itself. Everyone could feel that the blood chi surrounding the creature was rapidly increasing, and within a very short time, it reached the peak of the late immortal grade. However, at this point, its growth slowed again, as though it was stuck at a critical point, unable to break through further. Damn! Konglinger's eyebrows furrowed as she saw this, clearly frustrated that even after such a great effort, the blood spirit beast still lacked the final step to break through. What should we do? Mu Chen asked, his brow furrowed as well. After all the effort put in, obtaining a peak late immortal grade blood spirit beast was not especially valuable. Konglinger bit her red lips lightly, hesitated for a moment, then gritted her teeth. We'll have to take even more drastic measures. All four of us carry the bloodlines of supreme divine beasts. If we use our own essence blood to guide it, we should be able to help it take that final step. Upon hearing this, Lin Song and Xiao Tian hesitated, as losing essence blood was a great cost for those with supreme divine beast bloodlines. They would need to recover for a long time afterward. If we can obtain that quasi-saint blood essence, the cost will be worth it, Konglinger said in a low voice. Lin Song and Xiao Tian thought for a moment, unwilling to give up now. They nodded firmly, and all three looked toward Nine Nether. Mu Chen pondered for a moment before speaking. Nine Nether can also contribute her essence blood, but her strength is weaker, so she may not be able to contribute as much as you. Otherwise, it could harm her foundation. Upon hearing Mu Chen's words, Nine Nether nodded in agreement. Konglinger and the others exchanged a glance. If the Nine Nether clan didn't shed as much bloodline chi, then they would have to contribute more themselves, which made them feel a bit reluctant. If Mu Chen wasn't protecting the Nine Nether clan, they might have forcibly extracted most of its bloodline chi to feed the blood spirit beast. But now, seeing Mu Chen's demonstrated combat power, they hesitated and had no choice but to back down for the time being. Then, let's do as Brother Mu said, Konglinger agreed. After their discussion, the five of them wasted no time. Konglinger and the others lightly bit their tongues, and immediately, streams of blood, each a different shade, shot out in torrents. The blood chi within these streams was so dense that it seemed almost material, glowing with dazzling brilliance. For blood torrents fell from the sky, heading straight for the blood spirit beast. The beast, thrilled by the nourishing energy falling from the sky, let out an excited roar. It opened its massive jaws and eagerly consumed the blood torrents without hesitation, swallowing them clean. Boom, boom, boom. As the blood entered its body, the stagnant blood chi within the beast surged violently once more. The surface of its massive body began to grow blood-red scales, as though they were becoming tangible. Terrifying waves of energy exploded, and even Mu Chen and the others couldn't help but change their expressions, their faces tense as they stared at the colossal creature. In their eyes, spiritual light gathered, allowing them to peer through the massive body of the blood spirit beast. Deep inside, they could see a blood essence the size of a large jar undergoing shocking changes. Previously, the blood essence had taken the form of a blood-red orb, but now it was gradually transforming into a black sphere, resembling a pill. The terrifying blood chi within it was palpable. They even began to feel that there was a flicker of intelligence in the beast's eyes. Act now. We can't let it continue breaking through. If it gets any stronger, we won't be able to control it. Mu Chen shouted in a low voice. Konglinger and the others, noticing the beast's rapid growth, immediately nodded without hesitation and changed their hand seals. Boom, boom. As they changed their hand seals, the blood spirit beast suddenly erupted with explosive sounds from within, as the hidden traps in the blood essence were triggered. The internal explosion interrupted the beast's breakthrough, and it let out a painful howl. The powerful waves of blood chi surrounding it began to dissipate at an astonishing speed, clearly indicating it had been severely injured. Detonate the blood essence again, Konglinger ordered. The blood essence they had previously provided also contained hidden traps. Since the beast hadn't fully refined it, they could trigger it once more. Boom. Once again, muffled explosions rang out from within the blood spirit beast. This time, the beast was severely injured. Its massive body shrank by several times, and it seemed to realize the danger, rapidly fleeing in the distance. Chase it, Konglinger shouted urgently. Without delay, the five of them shot forward like arrows, closely pursuing the beast. Boom, boom. Deep in the Emerald Sea, the injured blood spirit beast fled, with Mu Chen and the others hot on its heels, relentlessly launching powerful attacks. Half an hour later, the blood spirit beast's body had shrunk to a fraction of its original size, and the once terrifying blood chi had withered to the extreme. Finally, seeing the beast had no strength left to flee, Mu Chen and the others closed in and delivered a fatal strike. Boom. The body of the blood spirit beast shattered completely, and the blood chi spread out. A black light rose slowly, revealing a black blood pill about the size of a man's head, floating before Mu Chen and the others. Staring at the black blood pill, Mu Chen couldn't help but swallow hard. Even he was momentarily stunned.